What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Work Knife Balance. There's some new things going on. It is 2024. I'm in a designated space to do my videos. I'm really excited about that. We've got some new lights. We've got a new camera. There's some really cool things that are going to be happening. But first and foremost, we're going to be talking about my knife of the year for 2023. I've got 3 categories we're going to dive into, but before we get too far, I want to go ahead and say thank you to anybody who's already liked and subscribed to our channel. If you haven't, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below, and then ring the bell so you can stay notified on all the sweet videos that we continue to post. You can also head over to Instagram and like us at WorkKnifeBalance939. If you send us a knife for review, we'll send you back one of these sweet stickers and a thank you note just to say thank you for everything you're doing to help us support the channel and create content. We love making these videos, and we love being a part of the community that you guys have built, and it's amazing to be here. So thank you very much for that. Without further ado, let's dive into our first category, which is going to be budget knives. In order to hit this category, you had to be $100 or less. And for every category, I have one runner-up and then the actual choice. So for our runner-up in the budget category, we're going to move on with the Devo Knives Growler V2. This thing was amazing. Absolutely love this knife. I was a huge fan of the Growler V1. Although some people weren't, I really liked it. I love the blade, I love the belly on it. It was super slicey, very ergo, good fun. But when the V2 came out, I had to jump at it. Although I jumped a little too late. This thing sold out in less than an hour. It was ridiculous. To get one of these knives, you couldn't get one. So I had to wait until Blade Show, Salt Lake City, and I picked one up at the Devo booth from Kevin himself. I was really excited to be able to get one of these in. Absolutely amazing. The reason it hit my runner-up is because it is not quite under the $100 category, $100 mark, unless you use a code from White Mountain Knives. If you use that code from White Mountain Knives, it does drop under $100. But since it didn't hit the mark without the code, I didn't make it my budget knife of the year. My budget knife of the year was well under that $100 mark at 50 bucks, running hot and heavy with the Miguron Mayoral. This thing was amazing. Hit the market fast and hard, and was very quickly a very popular knife in the community. I can't deny it. I can't say that it's not worth the hype, because the value that you get with this knife, the quality that Miguron puts into these things is amazing. This is easily one of the best budget knives of the year and hit my budget category of the year. You get a very snappy detent, super dialed, easy choke up, great handle, good ergos, and 14 C28N steel on this thing for $50? That's amazing. That's a really good knife, and that is why the Miguron Mayoral hit my budget knife of the year for 2023. The next category we're going to be diving into is the production knife category. This is any knife from $100 to $300, and I've got 2 for you. One of them is going to be my runner-up. The other one is my actual choice. And my runner-up, a lot of people might think is my actual choice. But runner-up for production knife of the year in that $100 to $300 category is the Pena Paramour. I absolutely fell in love with this knife when I picked it up at Blade West. This thing is amazing. I saw this day one and I almost bought it, foolishly did not. Day 2, went back in, hunted it down. Javi had one in his pocket. The designer, Javi Garcia from Superlative, made this in collaboration with Pena, and I picked it up directly from the designer himself. Absolutely love this knife. It is by far none one of my favorite knives, but it did not hit the category because of a couple things. It is only a front flipper knife, and sometimes I want a little bit more. Now, that doesn't mean I don't love it. That doesn't mean it's not amazing. But for my everyday use, sometimes I need something a little bit easier than a front flip. Sometimes I need something that's a little bit quicker than a front flip to get out. So I chose something a little different. My production knife of the year came down to a Kaiser Veritas. The Kaiser Veritas, designed by Lindquist. This is an amazing knife. From day one, when I got this in the pass around group, I was smitten. This thing is absolutely beautiful. It is super thin. It feels a lot thinner in pocket. It's incredibly lightweight, and you can thumb flick it, maybe. There we go. You can reverse flick, and it does, if you want to, have a nice little front flip at the top there. This thing is amazing. I love this knife. It has been in my pocket, probably one of the top 3 carries this past year. And you know what? It's well worth it. You got S35 VN steel, you've got a titanium frame lock, and there's some really cool aesthetic things that they did, as in a little hidden spot right here if you want to do a reverse pocket clip and put it on the other side for lefties. So a lot of the things that they put in here were amazing. There were some things that are really cool, and ultimately it took the cake because of the second deployment method for me, and that is a necessity in everyday carry for me, just to be able to have the secondary deployment method in sometimes making things a little bit easier. So that was my production knife of the year, the Kaiser, which, on a side note, Kaiser hit it out of the park this year with some of the stuff that they were doing. Just every knife that came through was pretty much a banger. The Kaiser Veritas was my production knife of the year. And the final category we're going to be looking at before we wrap things up with a kind of sleeper knife is going to be the premium knife. These are knives that are $300 and up. I don't have many of these knives in my collection because I'm not a millionaire. I wish I was, but I'm not. So I've got 2. My runner-up was a knife that very much would have hit my knife of the year for the category of $300 and up if it weren't for the sneaky little bit of the knife that actually took the category. So my runner-up for $300 or up premium knife is going to be the Wear Knives Werewolf. This thing is absolutely amazing. I did get mine a little bit more fancy with the Zircuti in there to add a little bit of color, but this thing is ridiculous. You've got really nice thumb studs, a super dialed detent, and as much as people complain about the size, I have a good, normal, average, large hand, and I think this size is amazing. They did just enough in the ergos in how they cut back on the scales and how they made that a little bit easier to hold, that this thing is awesome. And that blade is so slicey. I could not tell you how many boxes I just whipped through with this thing, because everyone knows, everyone who carries a knife, all they ever do is cut down cardboard boxes. So this was my production premium knife runner-up of the year, Werewolves. Now, on to the belle of the ball. The premium knife of the year for me, 2023, is going to be my custom NCC Ragnarok. This thing was my premium knife of the year, and it should be no surprise to anyone. I first saw this NCC Knives Ragnarok at Blade Show, Salt Lake City, and I could not leave without it. But I did, because I didn't have any money. So I went on to Instagram, and I showed the video of this knife, of me holding it, and said, please, somebody help me find this knife. And what we found was they were all sold out because they're custom knives. So I reached out to the designer, the maker, Nick Chirpin from NCC Knives, and said, do you have any left? He said, I do, but if you hold off a month, my books are going to open for knives. So his books opened 2 months ago. I ordered this one, and now, right before the end of the year, I got this bad boy in, and look at that. It is amazing. Ergos on this thing are absolutely ridiculous. The aesthetics on this are absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I may be a little biased because I just love it. But this was my knife of the year. I've only had it for a week, but I absolutely love it. I've carried it every single day since I've had it. And that action is so good. Buttery smooth. And it just whips right out. I could do that all day. I really could sit here. You could see a video of me for 24 hours, as long as I was able to plug my camera in, just doing this, and I would have the time of my life. It is so smooth. That was my knife of the year for the premium category, $300 or up. It was the NCC Knives Ragnarok. Those are my 3 knives of the year from the 3 categories. But I told you there was going to be a sleeper knife, a hidden knife, a runner-up, I guess you could call it, but not really. It's just a fourth category, a knife that I don't think you should sleep on and that is absolutely amazing. This knife is not a locking knife. It is a slip joint from Jack Wolf Knives. This was my very first Jack Wolf knife, and this is going to be the Jack Wolf Knives Feel Good. I got the Feel Good in limoncello yellow. I absolutely love it. This knife was everything when I got it. Absolutely love it. I was not a big fan of slip joints until this past year. I started looking into them a little bit more, started realizing they are more practical than you can imagine and more fidgety fun than you could imagine. So with that, I decided to get a nice premium slip joint from Jack Wolf Knives, picked myself up the Feel Good Jack as my very first Jack Wolf knife, and I fell in love. So my sleeper knife of 2023 is going to be the Jack Wolf Knives Feel Good Jack. There are not very many of them left out there, but if you can find one, I highly recommend getting into the slip joint game and starting with one of the best ones out there, the Jack Wolf Knives Feel Good Jack. Those are my knives of the year for 2023. I don't have much else for you, so until next time, TTFN.